is Mr. Jeremy Brewer, and I am here to talk to you about how you can put two different size buckets together and then strap them, put straps on and hooks and all that, so that your students can feel like they are marching with what in the future would be considered a set of quads or quints. However, it's simplified. There's only two different size buckets, so two different levels of playing, and then just make it more fun for them for their trash can band experience rather than just a park and bark type experience. So here we go. All right, first I want to talk about the strength of the buckets. So I recommend that when you buy buckets, you look at the bottom, and usually there'll be a certain millimeter thickness that they are. So for example, this one says 70 mil. So that means it's 70 millimeters thick. 65 is probably the lowest I would go to, so that you have it thick enough that it doesn't crack as easy on you. No offense against Home Depot buckets. I've found that those tend to break easier, even though that's the buckets that we tend to look at first as a society. I believe I got this one just in the paint department or something at Walmart, but 70 mil, it's food grade, so it's a little bit more sturdy, and that will last a lot longer. Speaking of Home Depot, for purposes of this video, they were out of what I needed, but they did have these, and these are 65 mil. This is a 2-gallon bucket. What I had over here was a 5-gallon bucket. And so in this video, we're going to talk about how to put the 5-gallon and the 2-gallon together so that the surfaces are level, and then how to get them strapped to your students' bodies so they can use them and start to walk around and experience marching. All right, to get this done, you're going to need some hardware. First, I get all 1/4-20 hardware, which is 1/4 inch thick, and 20 is how many threads per inch. And it'll say on the labels, if you go to Lowe's or Home Depot or Ace or whatever other hardware stores are out there, it'll say on the labels of the drawers or where those are 1/4 inch by 20. And then it'll say like this is, I think, 1.5 inches. And so you want to get 1/4 by 20 for all of your hardware, and make sure that the washers you get also can fit a 1/4 inch bolt. All right, so here, start the bolts first. These are what we use to tie together the two buckets. Now notice, I have double of everything, and they're in reverse order. The buckets will be here. The flat washers go against the buckets, followed by, you can't see it in here, but a lock washer. So if you look at that, it's got the split in it. And that's important because that will help it to lock in place and not to come undone. Because you don't want to, these take about 30 minutes tops to put them together. You don't want to have to be fixing them up all the time. You want to just one and done, get to work. So again, so we got the flat washers, the lock washers, and then the two nuts. And I used to, when I first did this 10 years ago, I used to get these lock nuts that has the white plastic or rubber on the inside where it would lock. The problem with that is you have a longer bolt and you start tightening it, it gets to that plastic part, and then you gotta use a tool the whole time. And you don't want to do that. That's too much work. So it's much easier and faster. Just get the regular nuts, and you can get a box of like 100 for a few dollars. And then, and I'm gonna keep that in the video too. I kicked my stand and it went that way. And then the lock washers, and then the flat washers. Now I used to get the washers that are like size of a 1/4. I found that that was too wide because I wanted to like really hold the buckets together, but because of the curvature of the buckets, that was actually too wide, and it made it crack sometimes if I tighten it too much putting them together. So now I go with these smaller washers, and they do a lot better job of that. All right, the other thing you're going to want to get, so this is a set from one of my schools that I've made. Now this is a little bit bigger than a 5-gallon bucket. Live in Arizona, there's a lot of pool places, so this is actually a pool chlorine bucket. It's about 6.5 gallons rather than a 5-gallon. It does get a little deeper sound, which I kind of like. But again, it still does the same thing. You've got the 2 levels of pitches and the 2 level surfaces to play on for your students. Now, once it's all put together, you're going to have these are just common instrument case straps. Nothing big about them. They have the latch. Where's my camera? Has the latch like that. So it makes it really easy to clip on and clip off so that they can get these on really quick, and then they can adjust. Okay, it's got the silver strap, and you just pull it through. The more it's doubled up, the tighter it is. The more it's a single strap, the looser it is and the longer it is. All right, so that's how you'll tighten and loosen for your students. I don't have it here right now, but I also bought just some black dress socks that are real cheap off of Amazon. I cut the toe end off and I slipped it over these, because sometimes this part of the neck, the strap, will not always land on the neck right. It might end up a little bit this way or this way, and so this thinner part might rub against the student's necks. So if we have a sock, that can adjust one direction or another to help soften that and make it so it doesn't hurt their necks as much. All right, so as you can see, I've got 4 eye hooks here, and it doesn't really matter what position they're in here as long as they're tight and you can hook these on. You know, some are facing one way or some are facing the other way. This one's up and down, this one's sideways. So that's what we want to do, is to create this. And you'll see I've got my bolts in there. I've got the hardware on either side with the washer, lock washer, and nut on either side. And then I've done the same with the eye bolts in there. One other thing you may have noticed by now in the video is I also have put duct tape on the inside, because they can crack easy. It just helps to absorb a little more of the vibration from the drumsticks so that they don't crack as soon and they last longer. Because again, you don't want to do all this work only to have to redo it again in a couple weeks. That's a waste of your time and your students' time, and they get frustrated if they don't have instruments to play. So that's what we're going for. That's the end product. So let's show you how to do it. All right, first we're going to take our 5-gallon bucket. Now notice there is a handle on it. That handle will get in the way of knees and whatnot if you're trying to have them walk or march in any formation. So I just pull those out, and there's, as you can see, it goes in that way. So I just got to pull it out that way. The other side is going to be the opposite way. So you just pop it out, and the other one should come out pretty easy because you're not fighting it because they're opposite ways. And throw in the trash can, because it's for trash can band anyways. So, and what we're going to do then, we'll do the same thing with our 2-gallon bucket. So again, same setup. Just pop it out. And throw it in the trash. Perfect. Perfect landing every time. When you do your holes, obviously you got this thicker part of the bucket, so you want to keep the holes closer in the flat area, because if you put a bolt here and then you're tightening the buckets, you're cinching it against that thick part, and you're going to cause it to crack more. So if you can get them to connect here and then kind of just have a natural bow out as they go down, that would be best. So usually, like for my 2-gallon bucket, I would do, obviously not right by the top either, because that can make the top crack easier. So probably 1 inch or 2 in at least, and then maybe about 3 or 4 inches up from here, 2 holes like that. All right, so to do that, it's good to have a Sharpie for this. I'm just gonna like right there and like right there. Doesn't have to be exact, but if you wanna mark that or measure that with a tape measure, you're welcome to do that. So next, I'm gonna grab my drill. Screwdriver bit's not gonna work though. So usually there's a 1/4" bit out there that is very popular, that is in a lot of things. If you don't have your own drill bit set, then I would go ahead and get at least the 1/4" bit by itself, because you'll be using it a lot when you make these for your students. All right, I got one that's slightly bigger. It's a 5/16. So you'll notice it'll be slightly bigger, but the washers will still cover that hole and whatnot. This just helps it so it goes in easier in case I don't drill exactly where I want to. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and drill these holes first. All right, so I got my holes. Now I need to line them up with this. And the idea is you want it to look like this. However, get a little more flat there, Mr. Brewer. However, trying to do it like that doesn't work very well. So it's easier if you have them flat on the ground like this. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my Sharpie. I'm gonna have them level on the ground. I'm gonna mark through the holes I just drilled to the outside of this one. So I know where to drill this so that when I put them together, they'll be even and ready to go. All right. Now sometimes when you drill, notice there's like some plastic burrs on the inside. Try to kind of pull those off if you can. Just makes it easier to do the marker all the way through, because there is that gap sometimes that forms because of the rim being a little bit thicker. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and mark these right now. All right, so I got my 2 marks, and obviously when I did my original marks, they weren't vertically plumb in line. They're a little bit on an angle, but you know what? They will still work. It doesn't have to be perfect. They just have to match each other. So that's why I'm not real particular about, okay, make it 2 inches here and then 4 inches here. Make sure it's equidistant. No, save yourself the trouble, make the marks, drill the holes. So I'll go ahead and drill these holes now. All right, and just wipe off any burrs so that we put our bolts in. We'll be able to cinch them down really good and not have anything in the way. All right, almost there. Okay, so I got a couple bolts all ready to go. This is just how I like to store them, the extras that I have, because it helps me to just grab and go. I don't have to search through all my hardware and stuff. So yeah, it takes a little time to do this. Some students can do. You show them how, and there's obviously get a detail-oriented student to help you with that. So I'm going to take the one nut off. Good thing it's not a lock washer, right? Or lock nut. So I'm going to take the lock washer and washer off, set them down. So this is what I have left. The nut is on first, followed by the lock washer, followed by the washer, which is going to go. Now I'm going to do it through the white bucket first. I'm going to do the farthest hole as well, because that way I don't have to fight with it as much, having the other bolts in the way already. So put it through. Hopefully you can see that. And then it's kind of loose, but that's okay. So flat washer first. lock washer next. That's the one with the like the slit in it, and looks like it's a spiral almost. And then the nut. And I'm just going to hand tighten most of the way so that they stay together. I'm not going to tighten it yet with my tools because I want to make sure that the other holes will line up and I get the hardware in them just fine. All right, so that's loosely on there. Now I'm going to grab my other bolts. I guess I should show you this too so you see it. Okay. All right, so again, undo the nut. Now these bolts, when I bought them, were too long. Obviously, there's a lot sticking out. Probably no more than 1.5 inches is what you would need for a bolt size to bolt buckets together. I haven't tried 1 inch yet, but I'm thinking 1 inch probably would work as well. It would just be a little bit tight getting all the hardware on in addition. So, all right, so I'm doing the same thing. Doing the washer first, then the lock washer, and then the nut. Just tighten by hand. Should probably speed up this part of the video, huh? All right. So, gives me roughly this, and they're pretty close enough for what we're doing. All right. And now I just need to tighten them. Now you'll need a tool for both sides of the bolt. In both buckets, and there's various tools I've used in the past. Just your normal pliers. I've used channel locks before. These are kind of big, but the fact that they're big makes it a little easier in the big bucket to grab down or to grab a little bit from the side if it's hard to get to. I've used needle nose pliers, and I have some lineman pliers as well that I was going to bring. I don't have those, but really anything that can tighten them. If you want to get fancy and get socket wrench and regular wrench and do it that way too, that is totally fine. Again, you don't want to over tighten. You want to get it snug, and then just like another quarter turn, and that should hold it with a lock washer in there lock washers to keep it steady for you. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten those right now. So we'll speed up through this thing while I do it. All right, I have my first bolt done, and now I'm on to my second bolt. Whew. All right. It really didn't take that long, even though I sped up the video and all that. So as you look at it, should be able to see the lock washers as flat now. So that part where it's got the split, it should have made it flat and even and look like the bigger washer, and that's how you know that it's tight enough that it should stay for you for a good long time. Next, let's go ahead and do our eye hooks. I have found that having the smaller bucket on the right, the larger bucket on the left, tends to match better what we do in trash can band, and helping the students to be successful. Now, looking at my example buckets here, again, there's no rocket science to it per se, but I found that one's about here, and those will go around the neck, and then one's here that will go around the waist. That's about what you need. So if you had to measure, because if you're exact like me and you don't want to mess it up, okay, if you're going from one bucket, you can see that's 4 to 5 inches that way, about 4 inches that way, and then between, you're looking at another 4 inches, probably the same over here, 4.5 inches. So if you want to be exact and just do 4 inches, take your tape measure just straight to here and mark it that way, and then same that way. That would be a good start for you until you get used to making some and you kind of have a feel for where the bolts need to go. So let's go ahead and let's make some marks on our new pair of buckets that we just did. All right. So again, this is my right side, this is my left side, this is facing me. This is where I want the first two, and then the second two on either side of that. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark these. About right here, and here, and then about here, and here. So we'll drill those out right now. And you're going to do the same thing. So I've kind of done the same thing with my hooks. Oh, not that one. Here it is. Where I've got the hardware already ready to go. 2 nuts, 2 lock washers, and then 2 flat washers in the middle. And then I'm going to do the same exact thing that I did with bolting the buckets together. I'm going to do that the same way here, obviously with the hooks out. Sometimes we get a little excited with putting the stuff together that we forget to think through things, and that's just common with all construction type stuff. I used to work construction for several years as an electrician and got to be called Sparky. It was pretty fun, except for when I actually was Sparky and got shocked. So, all right, so here it is. I'm gonna do check your knowledge. What do you do first? Flat washer. And then what's next? A little lock washer. And then last but not least, the nut. The cool thing about this is you can kind of hold on to the nut and turn the hook from the outside, and you pretty much just about get snug enough right there. It'll need a little bit more. So I'm going to finish working on these other bolts really quick, and then when I get back, we're going to work on getting the straps attached, showing you how to attach them and how the student would wear them so that they can march around. All right, we're back. So this is what it looks like with all 4 eye hooks. All right. The first thing we're going to do with our instrument strap, we're going to attach it to the 2 in the middle. Now I'm a bigger guy than my elementary students, so I'm going to loosen this all the way to get started. And before we put it over our neck, we're going to twist it once. All right. Now, sometimes they tend to kind of flop forward a little bit when there's just one strap. So that's why we did the other set of eye hooks. And I'm going to stand up so you can see this better. It's still a little tall because you want, most drum stuff you want about belt height, right? So that way it is at a good playing level for your arms and hands. This is just a little bit high for me, but for elementary students it's perfect. For me, for the other ones, I would attach one side and I would go around to the other side and then tighten from there. I'm a big guy. My students aren't this big. So I would, for them, I attach on one side, I bring it across the body, and I bring it to the other side. See if we can do this even though I'm bigger, not quite. And then I would bring it across and strap it over here in front of this one. It kind of helps cinch them back a little bit, and it helps the wobble not to wobble as much while they're walking around. Okay? So again, middle two goes over your neck with one twist, just to help with the wobble and whatnot. Kind of the same concept as a truck with the trailer. It's got the tow chains, so if the trailer falls off the hitch, the chains are crisscrossed and they'll kind of help it from wobbling as much. And then this one, go across the front, around, and then into the other hook on the outside. Crossing over the front so that it helps stabilize these even more. All right? So, that is our marching buckets for our trash can band. So in the description below, I'm gonna leave some detailed information as far as all the hardware you need and everything. Some places where you can get the instrument strap and whatnot, what kind of buckets to get, what size, what strength, millimeter strength, and all of that, so that you can have all that after this video. Any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I love doing this. I've done trash can band stuff for about 10 years in Arizona, and just keep building and building, and this is fun. Like, I have students choosing to come at 7 a.m. once a week to practice. And the buckets is a huge, humongous part of that. And good luck to you and your program. Thank you for watching.